Here's what's coming up in this week's story. Don't be shy, she said, leaning in close so that her breath whispered against his ear. I am full of experience, if that is what you are looking for. I can teach you a thing or two about love. Mike's resolve crumbled as Sophia's words washed over him. He found himself confessing his desire for her, despite knowing that it was wrong. But I don't want to hurt your daughter, he added quickly, looking worried about what he had just confessed. Sophia waved her hand dismissively. Don't worry about Maya, she said. She will never know. But I must warn you, if you choose me, you will never remember my daughter, because I am a love expert. Here's how it all began. Sophia was living life on her own terms. At 40 years old, she looked like she was in her mid-20s. Her youthful energy and beauty had men half her age drooling over her. She had raised her identical twin daughters, Maya and Malia, alone after leaving her cheating husband. Sophia had vowed to herself that she would never again be tied down by a man's infidelity. As she navigated through life as a single mom, Sophia had learned to prioritize her own needs and desires. She had a string of lovers, each one carefully selected to satisfy her cravings. Her daughters were none the wiser, and Sophia intended to keep it that way. Maya beamed with pride as she introduced her boyfriend Mike to her mother Sophia. The three of them sat down in the cozy living room, surrounded by warm sunlight and the sweet scent of freshly baked cookies. Mom, this is Mike, Maya said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. We've been dating for a few months now. Sophia's face lit up with a bright smile as she extended her hand to Mike. It's so lovely to meet you, Mike, she said, her voice warm and inviting. Mike took Sophia's hand in his, feeling a sudden jolt of electricity as their palms touched. He couldn't believe that this stunning woman was Maya's mother. She looked more like a sister, with her youthful energy and radiant beauty. It's great to meet you too, Sophia, Mike replied, trying to play it cool despite his growing attraction to her. As they chatted over coffee and cookies, Mike found himself drawn to Sophia's charm and charisma. She was witty and intelligent, with a quick sense of humor that left him laughing out loud. Maya smiled happily as she watched her boyfriend and mother interact. She was thrilled to see them getting along so well. As the afternoon wore on, Sophia began to flirt shamelessly with Mike when Maya was out of sight. She would touch his arm lightly as they talked, or bat her eyelashes at him in a playful way. Mike felt his heart racing as he responded to Sophia's flirtations. He couldn't help but wonder what it would be like to be with her. Sophia, you're an amazing cook, Mike said, taking another bite of his cookie. These are the best chocolate chip cookies I've ever had. Sophia laughed and playfully rolled her eyes. Oh, stop it, she said. You're just trying to butter me up. Mike grinned mischievously at her. Maybe just a little, he admitted. As they continued to chat and laugh together, Mike found himself feeling more and more drawn to Sophia's youthful energy and charm. He couldn't believe that he was actually attracted to his girlfriend's mother. But as he glanced over at Maya, who was watching them with a happy smile on her face, Mike felt a pang of guilt for his sudden desire for Sophia. He knew that he needed to push these feelings aside and focus on his relationship with Maya. Or so he thought. Mike's eyes locked onto Sophia's as he stepped into her home, his heart racing with anticipation. She was wearing a short, tight dress that hugged her curves in all the right places, leaving little to the imagination. Mike's eyes widened as he took in the sight of her, his mind struggling to process the sheer sensuality of the woman standing before him. What brought you here today? Sophia asked, her voice husky and seductive as she smiled up at him. Mike stuttered out a greeting, his eyes fixed on Sophia's cleavage as he tried to play it cool. But Sophia just laughed, a throaty sound that sent shivers down Mike's spine. I think you like what you see, Sophia said, her eyes sparkling with mischief as she took a step closer to him. I know for a fact that you find me very attractive. Mike's face turned bright red as he struggled to deny his attraction. But Sophia just laughed again, her eyes never leaving his. Don't be shy, she said, leaning in close so that her breath whispered against his ear. I am full of experience, if that is what you are looking for. I can teach you a thing or two about love. Mike's resolve crumbled as Sophia's words washed over him. He found himself confessing his desire for her, despite knowing that it was wrong. But I don't want to hurt your daughter, he added quickly, looking worried about what he had just confessed. Sophia waved her hand dismissively. Don't worry about Maya, she said. She will never know. But I must warn you, if you choose me, you will never remember my daughter, because I am a love expert. I can love you the way you desire. That and much more. Mike was torn. Part of him knew that he should walk away, but another part of him was drawn to Sophia's promise of passion and excitement. I want to experience it all, Mike said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. Sophia smiled up at him, her eyes flashing with triumph. Then let us begin our affair, she said, reaching out to take Mike's hand in hers. As they touched, Mike felt a jolt of electricity run through his body. He knew that there was no turning back now. With a fierce cry of passion, Mike swept Sophia into his arms and carried her off to the bedroom. The door slammed shut behind them as they began their steamy affair. As the days turned into weeks, Mike found himself returning to Sophia again and again. They would meet in secret, their affair hidden from Maya and the rest of the world. But Mike wasn't the only one who had caught Sophia's eye. Henry, Malia's boyfriend, had also been drawn into Sophia's web of seduction. Henry had always been a bit of a player, and Sophia's charms were too much for him to resist. He began to secretly meet with Sophia, unaware that Mike was also having an affair with her. As the months went by, Sophia juggled her two lovers with ease. She was a master manipulator, always keeping them in line with her charms and beauty. But it was only a matter of time before everything came crashing down. One day, Maya came home early to find Mike sitting next to Sophia without a shirt. Mike was shocked to see Maya so early, whereas Maya was shocked to find Mike without a shirt in the presence of her mother. Since when did you start coming home without me? Maya asked, her voice trembling with anger. Sophia quickly jumped in to explain, but Maya wasn't buying it. Maya's eyes widened in outrage as she stormed into the living room, her gaze fixed on Mike's bare chest. He was sitting comfortably next to her mother, Sophia, who seemed completely at ease with the situation. Maya's mind reeled with shock and anger as she struggled to process what she was seeing. What is going on here? Maya demanded, her voice trembling with rage. She felt like she'd been punched in the gut. Mike's eyes darted towards her, a look of guilt flashing across his face, before he hastily tried to cover himself with a nearby cushion. I was just, getting comfortable, he stuttered. Sophia jumped up from the couch, a placating smile on her face. Maya, sweetie, don't be ridiculous. Mike was just. But Maya wasn't having it. She cut her mother off mid-sentence, her anger boiling over. How could you do this? Both of you. What is wrong with you? Mike stood up, holding out his hands in a calming gesture. Maya, listen. No. Maya shouted, taking a step back from him. You're half naked in front of my mother. How could you be so disrespectful? Sophia stepped forward, her voice rising to match Maya's. Maya, stop being dramatic. Mike was just relaxing after a long day. Relaxing? Maya repeated incredulously. With no shirt on. In front of my mother. Mike took another step forward, his eyes pleading for understanding. It wasn't like that, I swear. Don't even try to explain, Maya spat at him. I don't want to hear it. The room fell silent as the three of them stood there, locked in a tense standoff. The air was thick with unspoken accusations and hurt feelings. Finally, Sophia broke the silence. "Maya, calm down and listen." "I won't calm down." Maya exploded again. "This is unacceptable. I will forgive you for now, but just remember, you have to respect my mother." A few days later, Mike's eyes widened in outrage as he stormed into the living room, his gaze fixed on Henry and Sophia in a compromising position. His jealousy boiled over, and he felt like he'd been punched in the gut. "What the hell are you doing with her?" Mike demanded, his fists clenched at his sides. He took a step closer to Henry, his face twisted in anger. Henry just shrugged, a smirk on his face. "I could ask you the same thing," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "You're not exactly innocent here, Mike." Sophia quickly intervened, placing a hand on each of their arms. Boys, no need to fight over me," she said, her voice husky and confident. "I can handle both of you, unless one of you wants to end our secret affair." Just then, Maya and Malia walked into the house, their faces pale with shock. They stood frozen in the doorway, their eyes fixed on the scene before them. "Mom," Maya whispered, her voice trembling with confusion and horror. Malia's eyes widened as she took in the scene. "What is going on here?" she demanded, her voice rising. Maya's eyes snapped to Mike's face. "How long has this been happening?" she demanded. "How long have you and our mother been lovers?" Malia added her own questions, her voice trembling with anger. "How could you be so mean to your own daughters? How could you steal and sleep with our boyfriends?" The room erupted into chaos as both couples began arguing at once. "I demand to know the truth," Maya said, her eyes blazing with anger as she turned to Mike. "Who do you love? Is it my mother or me?" Mike hesitated before answering, his eyes darting between Maya and Sophia. "I have feelings for you, Maya. But I love your mother." Henry nodded in agreement. "I choose your mother too." Sophia smiled, a triumphant look on her face as she wrapped an arm around each of the men. "You were not able to satisfy your men," she said, her voice dripping with malice as she looked at her daughters. "You are amateurs in bed, whereas I am an expert. I choose to continue having fun with these young men that you were unable to keep." Maya's face went white with shock and hurt as Malia let out a strangled cry of pain. "How could you do this to us?" Maya whispered. Malia shook her head. "We're leaving," she said firmly. The two sisters turned and walked out of the house without looking back. Months went by without any communication between Sophia and her daughters. The silence was oppressive and heavy with unspoken hurt and betrayal. One day, both Maya and Malia received a message from their mother, Sophia, that would change everything. The words poured out of her heart, filled with deep regret and sorrow. "My dear daughters, I am deeply sorry for what I did," the message read. "I was blind to my own selfish desires, and I let my passion cloud my judgment. I should not have stolen your boyfriends, and I should have put your interests above my own. Please find a place in your heart to forgive me for breaking your heart." As they read on, they discovered that Sophia's world had come crashing down around her. Mike and Henry had left her without a word after learning that one of them could be the father of her unborn baby. Sophia was a few months pregnant, and the reality of her situation had hit her hard. "I am alone now, and I am filled with shame and regret," the message continued. "I will understand if you don't want to see me again, but I hope that one day you can find it in your hearts to forgive me." Maya and Malia were taken aback by their mother's words. They had been hurt by her actions, but they couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness for the pain she was now going through. After much contemplation, they decided to reach out to Sophia and invite her to meet with them. They chose a quiet park, where they sat down together for the first time in months. Sophia looked worn and weary, her eyes sunken from lack of sleep. But as she saw her daughters sitting across from her, she felt a glimmer of hope. "I'm so sorry," Sophia said again, tears streaming down her face. "I was wrong to do what I did. I realize now that family is everything, and I threw it all away for something that didn't even last." Maya and Malia looked at each other before turning back to their mother. "We forgive you," Maya said softly. "But we need you to understand something," Malia added firmly. "We will never introduce you to our boyfriends again. We need to protect ourselves from getting hurt like that again." Sophia nodded vigorously, tears still streaming down her face. "I understand," she said. "I promise to respect your boundaries from now on." As they hugged each other tightly, Sophia knew that she had been given a second chance. She vowed to make amends and be a better mother to her daughters from now on. In the end, Sophia decided not to abort her pregnancy. Instead, she chose to raise her child as a single mother, with the support of Maya and Malia. As they all walked out of the park together, arm in arm, Sophia finally felt a sense of peace wash over her. She knew that she still had a long way to go to regain the trust of her daughters fully, but this was definitely a start towards healing process.